Good morning. This morning's chapter is called Reasons Why We Find Sadhana Difficult. Sadhana is spiritual practice. The question arises, why is it that even after the aspiration to live a different kind of life is awakened within us, we still find it difficult to live as spiritual inquirers? The awakening of the aspiration to know God is very rare. It is a gift from God. Once it is awakened, people are drawn to satsang, that is either the company of the words of realized beings or to the company of living beings who have experienced and are living that reality. From satsang arises the desire to experience the reality which one has heard or read about. Some are satisfied with the knowledge they have obtained, and others are satisfied with the happiness they get from serving or being in the company of realized beings, so that the desire to go further and become a spiritual inquirer themselves does not arise. Another reason is because man is not accustomed to living without habits, compulsions, pressures, and tensions. Man only knows how to act and react out of the compulsion. His life is spent reacting even against his wishes to the social, economic, religious, and national pressures. There is no joy in such action, as he has to drag himself. There is no life in such activity, as it is based on fear. But such habits are the content of his relationships as he lives them today. That is why he finds a spiritual life difficult, because in sadhana there are no pressures from outside. Grown-up persons find it rather difficult to learn by themselves. They find it easy to be compelled into following certain patterns, methods, or techniques. In other words, they want some authority. Psychologically, human beings are not used to individual freedom. In sadhana, your life is your own responsibility. A true teacher will never enforce any discipline on the practitioner. He is left in freedom to do his sadhana as he chooses, depending on how genuine is his inquiry, the further he will go. And lastly, it is because spirituality has nothing to offer man except an awareness of his own nature, and man is used to attaining things. In spirituality, you do not get anything from outside. You cannot say, I got this or that. You cannot have ownership or possession of your own true nature. All you get is to know that there is an isness to reality. These are some of the reasons why, in spite of the urge to discover the truth being awakened in the heart, we are unable to live as spiritual practitioners. So, some hints for making life easier for spiritual practice. One of the main necessities for spiritual practice is conservation of energy. A practitioner will have to educate himself to conserve this energy. How should we go about it? The mind's energy can be conserved by conserving our speech. We can observe silence and be alone for some part of every day, for example, from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. Then the regeneration of vital energies takes place. In speech, the air and fire elements of our being get used up. The meaning of our words has an effect on the body, causing the blood to get warmer. Up to the age of 35, the body keeps growing and developing. After that, the capability of the body to create energy takes longer. Conservation of energy is very important for freshness of the body. The negative attitudes of the mind, like self pity, anxiety, indifference, despondency, and depression, should be avoided, for they sap vital energy, causing a lot of destruction. By indulging in such thoughts and moods, the light of the mind is dimmed and extinguished, it being a very tender light. The mind is a machine in which lies the past and the many conditionings of society, family, religion, etc. When desire is awakened, these conditionings get activated, and the thoughts that arise with it create tensions and pressures on the chemical and neurological systems of our body. When a practitioner realizes this, he will use the mind with great responsibility. The mind wastes a lot of energy repeatedly thinking about the past and worrying about the future. If the mind is in the habit of worrying about the future, you should appeal to the mind, saying, "Dear friend, tomorrow has not come, and we have already made plans for it. Let us not think about it now." The mind must be made our friend, our co-operator. We have to take work from the mind in a very cajoling way, not by force. This is a new attitude, a new approach to the mental movement. We should catch the mind at the center and not at the periphery. Much energy is wasted in the chattering of the mind. Every thought consumes energy, even when you're physically alone and by yourself. You could be spending lots of energy through the chattering of your mind. The chattering of mind which consumes energy will have to come to an end. Another way of wasting energy is to act out of tension, conflict, and contradiction. When you suppress one part of your mind and react to a situation with another part of the mind, the energy is divided and spent on two fronts: inward suppression or repression, and outward reaction or response imply double expenditure of your energy. When one is willing to educate oneself, one should find out what the priorities in one's life are. Discovering the order of priorities and allotting one's time and energy in proportion to that order is vitally necessary. Generally, we waste energy in unessential secondary things. This waste of energy leaves us tired and troubled at the end of the day. An overtired and emotionally disturbed person cannot sleep profoundly. The sacred night is wasted. You begin the next day with a sluggish body and a lethargic mind. One has to find out, moreover, how one wastes energy in dreams. For when you see dreams, your mind is working and much energy is spent. Self education begins by watching how we are using the energy and learning how not to waste it. One has to see that one does not waste the precious energy unwarrantably. The energy that is built in childhood and youth is our capital. It should be conserved and used with care and concern. Let the inquirer after truth first gather all the energy unto himself. Let him be alert, sharp, and sensitive enough not to waste energy through any kinds of conflicts and tensions. Then perhaps he will discover that there is an inexhaustible source of energy within. Every human being is that source of energy. If a practitioner lives this way for 24 hours, bringing rhythm into his life, into his sleeping and eating habits, and economizes using the mind's energy, that when he sits down for silence, the mind does not trouble him. If in the 24 hours his behavior has been harmonious and attentive, then no sooner than he sits down, his mind will become silent. Silence becomes the byproduct of his attitude to life. The effects of silence are with him the whole day and affect all he does. Then he does not need to sit at any specific time. The sadhak thus grows into a new dimension of consciousness, a new dynamics of relationships. Self-inquiry. Self-inquiry. What is inquiry? When we use the word, what do we mean? Is it questioning the meaning of life, meaning of being related to human beings, to non-human species, to nature, to one's own body, to thoughts, feelings, and sentiments? Is inquiry a questioning of the validity of what society imposes, questioning the validity of the structures by which we are surrounded? Is it a search, an activity of seeking to obtain something and to reach a destination? What does inquiry mean for each one of us? And why do we inquire? Why? We have a body richly conditioned with its vast inheritance of human knowledge and experience, and we have the senses and sensual pleasures. We have the pleasures of the mind and the brain. Why not accept whatever is there? Be satisfied with the pleasures the world has to offer, the senses have to offer, and the sophistication that the brain has to offer us. Why inquire? What is the motive behind this quest? Is it really a quest? If inquiry is a reaction to a frustration, some failure, or some disappointment, the negative nature of the motivation, instead of allowing us to question, to doubt, to listen, to understand, will make us look for someone or some place or something to which we can cling and feel compensated. The motivation behind the inquiry will determine the quality and the nature of that inquiry. It is of fundamental importance to look at the motivation behind the inquiry. Can the inquiry be a search? A search is always in relation to the known. What I seek may not be known to me, but known to my forefathers. We may choose, for example, to seek God. God, according to the Hindus, the Christians, the Muslims. Then we have not only a word, but a definition, even a description. There cannot be an inquiry, a questioning, once the destination in space and time has been accepted. Then we set a predetermined goal, a predetermined point of arrival, a destination, and we accept that. Then we try to move towards it with the help of some technique or a formula. This process is not inquiry. Seeking to search cannot be an inquiry. Inquiry cannot be prompted by acquisitive motivation. I want to realize liberation, enlightenment. I want to have and find enlightenment. Please, please do see that all of this is a desire for acquisition. The field of owning and possessing may change from the material to the non-material, but the quality, the state of mind is the same. When we are eager, impatient to acquire a certain state of mind, attain transcendental experiences, our state of mind obviously is not one in which learning or understanding can occur. When we are in a hurry to inquire, we don't much bother about what is happening to ourselves. Can you see that the first step is the most important? Freedom for inquiry is absolutely and vitally necessary. The mind must be free from acquisitive, ambitious motivations, from all obsessions about some predetermined goals. In other words, it has to be in a state of not knowing. In that state, we do not know what life is, what death is, and what love is, and we would like to find out. We are receptive and open to look, to listen, to find out with our whole being. Inquiry is not a process of becoming. Inquiries do not set out to find the nature of truth or freedom in order to become somebody or something that they are not. A genuine inquiry has nothing whatsoever to do with the process of becoming and the process of acquiring. Then why do we inquire? I have noticed that there is misery and suffering in life. And the stuff of my daily living contains tensions, inner conflicts, contradictions. When I notice this and the disorder created by all this, I ask myself, is this the way to live? Is man doomed to suffer? The urge for freedom from all this is the foundation of inquiry. If the facts of our daily living are not observed personally, if we have not seen the inner disorder, chaos, and anarchy within ourselves manifest and reflected in relationship, if we have not noticed it personally, then a pain and agony to question or inquire will not arise. Religious inquiry implies an inner change, a drastic revolution in the psychic structure. A religious inquiry requires a revolutionary attitude towards life. Religion is really an inner revolution. It is a total change in the very structure of the transformant, that is, the inquirer. One should not deal with such themes just casually or without sufficient care and concern. Religious inquiry is questioning one's own nature, questioning the validity of one's behavior, and finding out how the I has been built up, the nature of its limitations, which become manifest when we talk and are with other people. No one else can do this for me. I have to do this for myself. Observing life. Life is for living, and living is relationship. For a spiritual inquiry, the question arises how to live so that relationships result in harmony and peace. I have to learn to be related to the life around me and within me. I relate to the visible world through my senses. In this visible world there are two sections. There's a man-made world and that which man has not created. Nature around me has not been created by man. Do I have any relationship with this world around me, which is not created by man, or do I ignore it? We are organically related to all that, and they are organically related to every one of us. They may contain many energies. Are we aware of all the energies contained in the earth and the compassion of the earth that feeds and nourishes us? Or do we look upon it as matter, not of much importance, just there to work on and to plunder? We're living with machines most of the time, not with human beings, nor with ourselves, or with nature. And this is benumbing the sensitivity. It is dulling the brain. We have to find out how to live and what kind of relationship we have with the life around through the thought structure. Perception has to be direct. Relationship has to be first hand, and the response of your whole being has to be there. Then only the communication takes place between nature and ourselves. Here, thought, knowledge, memory do not have any part to play. Only a non-verbal communication and the sense of belonging to each other are relevant. In the other part of the physical world, there are the material structures that man has created. Here we have the responsibility of using the movement of thought, knowledge, experience with competence and efficiency. Life is complex. You have to live exercising the thought structure, understanding its anatomy, using it properly and simultaneously. And simultaneously, you are living with the other part of life, where you don't have to exercise thought, but have to be open, receptive, and get related non-cerebrally, non-psychologically. If and when we learn to relate to the visible, we come to the threshold of the invisible, that which cannot be reached through the senses. Visible is the world of forms and shapes. It is material, but behind the visible there are no shapes and no solidness. It is a realm of energies in nebulous form. You cannot see a thought or an emotion with your naked eyes. So one has to get related to the invisible, not through the senses, but through some other channel. And behind the invisible is the infinity of life, where there may not be any movement at all, not even the movement of energies. To be related simultaneously to the visible, invisible, and the infinite seems to be the content of the word relationship. It means to be related to the visible through the senses, the invisible through the psychological structure, and the infinity of life through a non-cerebral, non-psychological energy of awareness. So human life has the realm of awareness, consciousness, thought, and sensual contact. When there is harmony among these three, when there is no conflict and tension between the physical, the psychological, and that which is beyond the psychological structure, then perhaps an individual can live in the wholeness of his being. But the visible, invisible, the infinite, are not watertight compartments. They are not fragments. They are whole by themselves. Life is a non-fragmentable, indivisible wholeness. A meditative way of living is to be aware of that wholeness and to be related to the wholeness in every moment, at every moment. The way we behave through the day in every relationship would be an opportunity for self-discovery, an opportunity for conducting the inquiry. Inquiry should not be limited only to the intellectual exercise it requires. No. Inquiry should not be limited only to the intellectual. Excuse me. So, the way we behave throughout the day in every relationship would be an opportunity for self-discovery, an opportunity for conducting the inquiry. Inquiry should not be limited only to intellectual exercise. It requires the commitment of total life to be conducted in every activity from morning to night. I think till so far for today. The next section will be relationship with the whole. And I'm going to read that tomorrow morning. So wish you a good day.